What in God's name is that from Stacks? Often known as the best team in the world, never having that distinction. It's a huge the bomb coming from John. Oh my God, Miguel, he does it again. Behind one, the approach from behind, Artis mows them down.
Let's get one thing straight. Not all competitive FPS games are created equal. Some are crowd pleasers, others are deep tactical chess matches, and one sits at the mountaintop like an untouchable god. But ranking them, that's where things get nuclear. The competitive FPS scene isn't just about who can click heads the fastest. It's about legacy, depth, cultural impact, and whether your game will be remembered in 5 years or forgotten faster than a TikTok trend. We're living through the golden age of tactical shooters, yet half these games are built on foundations shakier than a house of cards in a hurricane. So buckle up, because here are 7 levels of competitive FPS games. Level 1. The Graveyard. Welcome to the FPS graveyard, where $1 million budgets meet reality and corporate ambitions get buried faster than you can say servers shutting down. This isn't a single game, it's an entire tier of titles that convinced themselves they could dethrone the kings. First, let's pour one out for Sony's Concord. 8 years in development, $400 million budget, and it lasted exactly 14 days before getting yanked offline. 14 days. That's barely enough time for players to learn the character names. On the other hand, X-Defiant had everything going for it on paper. Ubisoft backing, decent gunplay, nostalgic faction teaming. But decent doesn't cut it in this genre. Players tried it, shrugged, and went back to the games that actually mattered. Meanwhile, Spectre Divide launched with the bold promise of controlling 2 bodies simultaneously. Innovative? Absolutely. Sustainable as a competitive ecosystem? The player count speaks for themselves. Each one had passionate developers, unique mechanics, and corporate executives convinced they found the secret sauce. Here's the brutal truth these games all learned too late. Innovation without retention is just expensive fireworks. The FPS graveyard is littered with titles that prioritize being different, which unfortunately isn't enough. Level 2. Call of Duty. Let's start with the elephant wearing a golden headset, Call of Duty competitive. The CDL pulls 100,000 plus viewers for finals and drove 6 million prize pools like candy. But calling Call of Duty a competitive FPS feels like calling McDonald's fine dining. Sure, millions consume it, but is anyone really taking it seriously when the game literally aims for you? Here's the brutal truth the CDL apologists won't admit. Call of Duty's aim assist is so aggressive it practically plays the game for you. We're talking rotational aim assist that tracks targets through walls, bullet magnetism that bends shots towards enemies, and sticky crosshairs that make missing harder than hitting. So how do you build a competitive scene around mechanics that reduce the skill gap to almost nothing? Meanwhile, the scene also resets itself every single year like competitive amnesia. New game, new meta, new maps, new everything. The numbers look impressive on paper. Optic vs FaZe Grand Finals pulling 250,000 viewers, $300,000 paychecks for champions. But strip away the marketing budget and nostalgia, and you're left with an elaborate commercial for the next $70 release. It's pretty much competitive fast food, engineered for mass appeal, profitable as hell, but ultimately very disposable. Level 3. Halo. Halo literally wrote the blueprint for console esports when most of you were still learning to walk. Before Counter-Strike was selling out arenas, Master Chief was packing MLG events with 50k screaming fans, watching split-screen or lockout duels. The 2007 MLG Vegas finals between Final Boss and Carbon pulled the numbers that would make modern Halo Championship Series event cry. But let's address the uncomfortable truth. Halo today is a former heavyweight champion still throwing punches at 50. The Halo World Championship 2023 peaked at 115,000 viewers, which is respectable but a far cry from what other esports games routinely pull. Modern Halo is living off legacy more than current relevance and everyone knows it. Yet here's why Halo still deserves this spot. It proved console FPS could be just as skill intensive as PC games when everyone said it was impossible. 4-shot BR kills, spawn timing mastery, power weapon control, this wasn't casual couch gaming. Halo pioneered the LAN party atmosphere that every modern esports event tries to recapture. Those MLG Anaheim crowds weren't just watching a game, they were witnessing history. The game might be swimming in a smaller pond now, but it's a pond Halo helped dig. That counts for something, even if the current fish aren't as big as they used to be. Level 4. Overwatch. Overwatch is the most expensive lesson in esports history, and we all got to watch the train wreck in 4K. Activision Blizzard threw 20 million franchise fees at the Overwatch League, convinced they could buy their way into traditional sports legitimacy. For one brief shining moment in 2018 to 2019, it actually looked like it might work. 40 million plus viewers for grand finals, celebrity investors, ESPN coverage. Then reality delivered a brutal lesson in why you can't just throw money at competitive integrity. The viewing experience was pure chaos. If you weren't already deep into Overwatch, watching Overwatch League felt like trying to understand quantum physics during a seizure. 6 ultimates going off simultaneously while casters screamed about huge grabs and perfect transcendence, which made zero sense to outsiders. But the real killer was solo queue. 6 strangers trying to coordinate dive compositions and ultimate timing. It was like asking a pickup basketball team to run Lakers level plays. The disconnect between what pros played and what regular players experienced was so massive that watching Overwatch League felt like watching a different game entirely. The Overwatch 2 transition was supposed to fix everything, 5v5, role locks, simplified gameplay. Instead, it felt like renovating a house by burning it down first. PvE promises were broken, legacy content was deleted, and longtime fans felt betrayed. Current Overwatch League viewership rarely cracks 50k for regular season matches. That's a 90% decline from peak numbers. But here's what Overwatch got right. It proved hero shooters could work at the highest level. It normalized ability-based FPS mechanics across the industry, and it created genuinely incredible moments. Profit's Genji Blade on Dorado, London Spitfire's championship run, Pine's Widow headshots, pure poetry when it worked. The problem wasn't the game. It was trying to force lightning into a bottle made of corporate expectations. Level 5. Rainbow Six Siege. If Call of Duty is competitive fast food, Rainbow Six Siege is that Michelin-starred restaurant where the chef personally insults you if you can't appreciate the molecular gastronomy. This game doesn't just have a learning curve, it has a learning cliff that most players fall off before they understand they're even climbing. But that brutal complexity is exactly why Siege works as a tier 1 esport. The Six Invitational 2024 sold out a 10,000-seat Montreal arena filled with fans who understood that watching Bulow execute a perfect runout or G2's site execute unfold is just as thrilling as any no-scope montage. These aren't aim duels, they're tactical puzzles where one drone spot or reinforcement placement can determine the entire round. The numbers back it up too. Six Invitational consistently pulls 300,000 concurrent viewers across platforms, with a $3 million prize pool that rival majors. The pro scene might not have CS's massive casual crossover or Valorant's corporate polish, but what it lacks in accessibility, it makes up for in pure competitive integrity. Every operator ban, every site take, every utility throw matters. Siege has something most games never achieve, a community that genuinely respects the skill ceiling. Watch someone get demolished by Pengu or Canadian, and instead of complaining about RNG, they'll study the WOD to understand the 4D chess move they just witnessed. The game demands your intellectual respect, which is why it has earned competitive legitimacy that flashier titles still chase. Plus, let's be honest, there's deep satisfaction in watching streamers confidently load into ranked, thinking Siege looks easy, only to get absolutely dismantled by game sense they didn't even know existed. Level 6. Valorant. Riot Games looked at Counter-Strike's 20-year dominance and said, we can do that, but with a better infrastructure, international storylines, and abilities that actually matter. And you know what's infuriating? They were absolutely right about almost everything. Valorant Champions 2023, 1.4 million peak viewers. Istanbul Arena sold out in minutes. Fnatic vs EG Grand Finals that had more production value than some Olympic events. The VCT system creates genuine regional rivalries. NA vs EMEA isn't just marketing, It's built into the tournament structure. Meanwhile, Counter-Strike fans were still arguing about major formats from 2015. Here's what makes Valorant genuinely terrifying to other tactical shooters. Riot took CS's greatest weakness, Valve's hands-off approach, and weaponized it into Valorant's greatest strength. Consistent updates, aggressive anti-cheat that actually works, ranked system that makes sense, tournament production that makes other esports look amateur. They didn't just copy Counter-Strike, they improved on almost every aspect of the competitive experience. The abilities debate is where things get spicy. CS purists will die on that hill that jet dashes and omen smokes somehow reduce skill expression. But watch us pass entry fragged or chronicle clutch impossible rounds and tell me abilities are crutches. The game demands everything CS requires: crosshair placement, economy management, tactical awareness, while adding another layer of utility mastery that separates good players from great ones. Is it as pure as Counter-Strike? It depends on your definition of purity. Is it building the more sustainable competitive ecosystem? The numbers don't lie. Riot's international tournament structure, regional leagues and consistent content pipeline make Valorant the most professionally managed tactical shooter in existence. That's not just good game design, it's good business. The only real question is whether Valorant can maintain this momentum when the honeymoon period ends, or if it's just really good at being shiny and new. Level 7. Counter-Strike. We arrive at the final boss. Counter-Strike isn't just a game. It's a competitive religion that's been converting believers for over 2 decades. From 1.6's CPL tournaments to Source's brief detour to Global Offensive major dominance to CS2's rocky resurrection, this franchise has survived engine changes, meta evolutions, roster dynasties, and countless CS killers that now populate gaming graveyards. The numbers are simply untouchable. CS2 launch pulled 1.8 million concurrent players. PGL Major Stockholm 2021 peaked at 2.7 million viewers across all platforms. And the Paris Major 2023 sold out arena 9,000 seats in under 20 minutes. This isn't regional success, this is global cultural dominance spanning literal decades. But statistics don't capture what makes Counter-Strike truly special. It's the purest test of FPS skill that exists. No abilities to bail you out, no random environmental destruction, no hero swaps mid-round, no aim assist training wheels. Just positioning, raw mechanical aim, economy management and tactical execution refined over 20 plus years of competitive evolution. Just think about Simple's jumping double from cash, Cold Zera's Mirage quad kill, Device's timing, get right clutches. These moments transcend gaming and become genuine sports history. The game creates legends, not just good players. Navi, Astralis, SK Gaming, Fnatic, NIP, these aren't just teams, they're dynasties with legitimate claim to the athletic greatness. Here's why CS has survived when every competitive has faltered. It respects its own fundamentals. Updates are incremental, not revolutionary. The core AK spray pattern hasn't changed since 1999, and that consistency is a feature, not a bug. Players can invest 10,000 hours into perfecting their craft without worrying that next month's patch will make their muscle memory obsolete. Even CS2 disastrous launch, broken hit track, missing features, community revolt couldn't kill the scene. The competitive ecosystem was so robust that players just adapted and kept grinding. Major tournaments still sold out, pro salaries stayed stable, and Valve slowly fixed the issues while the scene proved its own resilience. That's the power of untouchable legacy. You can stumble without falling. Counter-Strike doesn't just sit at the top of competitive FPS. It is competitive FPS, the standard against which every other tactical shooter is measured and found wanting. The uncomfortable truth. Here's what separates the pretenders from the champions. Longevity built on competitive integrity, not marketing budgets or viral moments. The games at the top didn't get there by accident. They earned their position by proving they can sustain professional ecosystems that outlast hardware generations, meta shifts, and changing social media algorithms. Counter-Strike dominates because it's proven it can evolve without losing its soul. The fundamentals that made 1.6 compelling still drive CS2's competitive scene. That's not stagnation, that's perfection of form. Valorant represents the hungry challenger with superior infrastructure but shorter history. It's doing everything right from a business perspective. But business success doesn't automatically equal competitive legacy. Time will tell whether Riot's corporate approach can generate the organic passion that keeps CS alive across decades. On the other hand, Siege carved out its tactical niche and owns it completely, building genuine competitive respect through pure complexity rather than accessibility. Overwatch proved that corporate money can't buy lasting esports legitimacy. You need grassroots competitive integrity, not franchise fees. But here's the thing about competitive hierarchies. They exist to be challenged, not accepted. Maybe you believe Overwatch's mechanical complexity deserves more respect than current viewership suggests. Maybe you're convinced that Halo's console legacy should carry more weight than the current numbers. So here is my challenge. Rank these 7 games yourself, but defend your rankings with more than nostalgia and wishful thinking. Consider competitive integrity, skill ceilings, viewing experience, professional sustainability and cultural impact. Factor in whether your favorite game will still have thriving scene in 5 years, or if it'll be a footnote in some future remember when article. The comment section is waiting, let's see what you've got. And remember, passionate disagreement is the highest form of competitive respect.